Hey guys, it's Shadow the Rat, and for today's video, we are going to be talking about what the pros and cons of spaying and neutering your rats are. So spaying and neutering rats is not super common, but there are a few good reasons to consider it, and especially after my last video talking about my older rat Sugar and her mammary tumor, I think a lot of people were curious to know my thoughts on spaying and neutering rats. So anyways, to get started, let's talk about spaying first because that has to do the most with mammary tumors, which again was what I talked about in my prior video. So spaying rats has a few different benefits, and one of the biggest ones is that it does reduce the chance that your female rats will develop mammary tumors. And for those of you who don't know, around 50 to 75% of female rats that are left intact will develop mammary tumors once they reach 18 months of age or older, and this number can drop to just 2 to 3% if they are spayed at a young age. And this is because mammary tumors are estrogen dependent, which means that the more estrogen that your rat has accumulated throughout their lifetime, the more likely they are to develop mammary tumors. So because these two things are linked, if you get them spayed early on and they're not producing estrogen anymore, then they are less likely to develop mammary tumors because again, they're not accumulating more estrogen. And especially if you have them spayed by 3 to 4 months of age, which is considered the ideal time to have them spayed, if you want to have the maximum chance of them not developing mammary tumors in old age, although some people will also wait until around 5 to 6 months, but generally any older than that, and it's not nearly as effective simply because they've already produced quite a bit of estrogen by that age. Anyways, this is why a lot of people will tell you to spay your female rats at a young age, by 4 to 5 months or even younger, and this is just because the less estrogen they have the chance to produce, the less likely they are to get these mammary tumors as they age. So the other thing spaying helps with is it prevents pyrometers, which are infections of the uterus. These are not super uncommon with intact female rats. They're not the most common thing, but again, they're not super uncommon. And when they pop up, you usually do have to get your female rat spayed. Usually symptoms are them bleeding from their urethra, and this is often one of the most common causes for that in females. But anyways, they usually either have to get spayed for this, or if they are old or otherwise sick, they might try to use antibiotics instead, but these typically aren't as effective as just spaying them from the get-go when they start showing these signs. So of course, if they're already spayed, you already have their uterus removed, they can't get these because, well, the uterus isn't there to get infected. So that is another benefit of spaying. Yet another benefit of spaying is that female rats can sometimes show sort of hormonal aggression, not in the same way as males, but more so sometimes when female rats go into heat, they can get a bit aggressive. It's not super common, but occasionally you will see a case of this. Same thing goes with females with maternal aggression. This is basically when a normally docile rat has babies and then they become aggressive. This is not something that you want to see ideally in your females because often rats from this litter will either have maternal aggression if they are females or later hormonal aggression if they are males, which are both traits that you do not want to see in rats. And sometimes these female rats that develop this maternal aggression, they don't go back to their normal behavior after the babies are weaned. Some of them do, but some of them don't. And in that case, sometimes spaying can help, although it's not guaranteed. Anyways, spaying in general just has quite a few different benefits, mostly health benefits, but also a few behavior benefits. And of course, if you have your females spayed, they can live with males. And a male-female group that is mixed can be a really nice group as long as one sex is altered. Anyways, with all that being said, let's talk about neutering now. So the main reason that people get their male rats neutered is because of behavioral issues. So things like hormonal aggression, which is basically where you have a normal docile male between the age of 4 and 12 months become aggressive to either humans or other rats or both. And so by neutering them, you reduce their testosterone levels and they go back to normal behavior. So this is the main reason people have their males neutered. I think probably the second biggest reason is because they want to house them with intact females, and neutering is typically cheaper. Plus also if your vet isn't as experienced with rats, they will typically be more confident doing a neuter because it's a more external surgery rather than a spay where they actually have to go into the abdomen. So it's a little bit easier for them if they don't have as much experience with rats, although an experienced vet should be able to do both, no problem. Anyways, other than that, male rats don't really get a lot of health benefits from being neutered. You will notice things like they'll have softer fur, they usually won't have as much butt grease, they won't mark as much, but these are kind of just surface level things. Same goes for the fact that they will smell less. This is a really nice benefit for us, but it really doesn't benefit the rats as far as health goes. The only thing that I can really think of is that it prevents cancer of the testicles, but male rats are already not too prone to that anyways, unless they only have one descended testicle, in which case they should be neutered no matter what. because then they are at a much higher risk for developing this sort of cancer. But other than that, you don't really get too many health benefits from it. And so the benefits are really just mainly behavioral or just to house them with females. So yeah, in general, neutering is, not as beneficial to the rat, but it's also typically a pretty easy surgery with a really high success rate. If you want to keep males and females together, typically people will neuter the males, again, because it's usually cheaper and easier to find a vet to do this than it is to spay females. Although, if you can get your females spayed in a situation like this, I would recommend that instead because it does have more health benefits. And yeah, it's not super uncommon to see rats that are neutered or spayed these days. I actually had a neutered male in my female group of 11 females and that one neutered male. His name was Marshmallow, and I got him from someone who previously neutered him just to house him with their females. So it's not super uncommon to see that these days. And it's also not that uncommon to see people spaying their females earlier in life just to try and prevent mammary tumors, because if you can have one surgery early on to prevent several surgeries down the line, it does make sense to do so. But anyways, that is pretty much all I wanted to talk about when it comes to neutering and spaying. Hopefully that gave you a bit of a better idea on whether you should spay or neuter your rats. Ultimately, it's up to you. Of course, there always are going to be some small risks, even with the most experienced vet and the healthiest rat. But in general, these surgeries have very low risks, so they're definitely worth looking into because they do have quite a few benefits. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!